For the first time since 2013, average interest rates are above 5%. And the Fed is expected to raise rates again 50 basis points, double what they did in March in May. So as we approach the spring housing market, it's going to be very volatile, and let's talk about it. I want to discuss with you what you should be doing now if you're in the market for a resale home or a new construction home, and what lenders and builders might be offering you to make your purchase more affordable. I'm Shaheedah Hill, getting you over the hill to home ownership and helping you confidently buy your first home. So let's talk first my new construction. If you're under contract currently for new construction and they're building, and sometimes builds could take 3 months or 6 months or even more, you can expect your interest rate to increase by the fall or by the end of the summer. And you need to prepare for that. So one thing that some lenders are going to offer you is a rate lock, a long rate lock. Some have up to 180 days extended rate lock, but it's going to cost you. Usually it's going to cost you. So you want to look at how much is it going to cost me to lock my rate that much versus how much higher rates are going to be. Your lender can help you figure that out, and you can run the numbers yourself. Is it worth me paying this now to lock in this rate for the future? And not knowing exactly where rates are going to be when it's time for you to close. So you should also have a conversation with your lender and ask them, okay, if I lock this rate in now at this cost, what if rates are lower then? What happens? You want to have those conversations with your lender. And don't be afraid to walk away. We're going to talk about that next. If you're already under contract with a new construction home and interest rates are rising, maybe you went under contract in 3%, now you're at 5%. Maybe you can no longer afford that house. You want to look over your contract with your realtor, with your attorney, and say, okay, what does it look like for me to terminate this contract? Because if you do have a finance contingency, you could possibly get out of that contract by not being able to qualify for the home anymore. But what if you still do qualify for the home at the higher interest rate, but you don't want it anymore? You don't want to pay that amount, even though you do qualify for that. Can you get out of the contract that way? So I want you, if you're already under contract and you're worried that this home may not be affordable, it may not be what you want to pay in your mortgage payment, you want to look over that contract with your lawyer. You want to look over that contract with your realtor and see what your options are if you wanted to terminate that contract. If you're not under contract in new construction already, I want you, before you get under the contract, I want you to see, is there a finance contingency? What happens if my interest rate rises over a certain amount? Can I terminate and get my earnest money back or my deposit back? Make sure that you're not paying too much for upgrades and deposits if you might cancel that contract in the future. You also want to make sure you're paying the least amount of earnest money. So I know a lot of builders were asking for a high percentage of the sales price in earnest money. They don't have the same leverage. It depends on where you are, but they, in a lot of places, don't have the same leverage because interest rates are so much higher. So they had a lot of people back off of their contract, or maybe didn't go under contract, that were on their waiting list. So you want to make sure that you're not putting yourself in a position where you're going to lose tens of thousands of dollars if you back out of that contract. Make sure you know 100% what happens if interest rates rise to a point you're not comfortable with. Some contract will allow you to put that into the finance contingency. Make sure you know what your earnest money is and what you're putting at risk if you're going under contract for new construction and it won't be ready, for months and months later. All right, so that's what I want you to do if you're doing new construction. Resale is the same thing. You just have a shorter time frame. So if you're doing a resale home, you probably have interest rates probably haven't risen that much if you had a 30-day contract. However, they still did rise. On your resale contract, you should have a finance contingency that says an interest rate, and all contracts in all states are different, but this is something you want to talk to your agent about. a lot of contracts, at least the contracts in Georgia, they'll have by the finance type, it'll have the interest rate. And if interest rates are a certain amount above that amount, you may be able to get out from based on your finance contingency. So make sure you're fully aware of what that means, and make sure you discuss it with your realtor before going under contract or before making an offer. And again, even with resale, you want the least earnest money possible. You don't want to put that at risk. You're under contract longer than you expected, and interest rates are going up depending on your lock. And those, have those same lock conversations with your lender now. What happens if I lock? What happens if the interest rates go down? What happens if they go up? How much does it cost for me to lock my rate for, over 30 days, 60 days, 90 days? Have those conversations now. All right, so, and I told you there was something that I was going to discuss with you, how builder lenders, and other lenders are probably going to start offering ARMs. And ARMs stand for adjustable rate mortgages. Adjustable rate mortgages. These ARMs will offer you, because they adjust, initially they will offer you a lower interest rate. So if you come to the lender and say affordability is an issue, like I don't want to pay 5%, they're like, oh, we have loans for 3%. How can you get the 3%? It might be a 5-year ARM or a 7-year ARM. And those ARMs, they adjust after the 5 years or 7 years ends. So whatever, your term is, that rate goes up after that term ends. So you only want to do an adjustable rate mortgage if you plan on being in the house for a short amount of time. So if you're doing a 5-year adjustable rate mortgage, you want to make sure that you don't plan on living in that house for more than 5 years, maybe like 4 years, because you're going to sell it and get out of it. But if we're still in a volatile market, you want to make sure that house is worth more. You might have some payments, but when you first start, you're just paying a lot of interest. So you want to make sure you'll be able to sell that house and not be upside down. You want to be able to sell the house and walk away at that lower rate, because more than likely that rate is going to go up after the 5 year ends. So 5-year adjustable rate mortgages are popular. 7-year adjustable rate mortgages are popular. But again, if you plan on living in this house for 15 years, you do not want an adjustable rate mortgage. But I sense that a lot of builders, the preferred lenders of these builders, they're going to try to get people not to cancel their contracts. So they're going to give them other options to make the mortgage payment more affordable. Now, some lenders may offer you additional closing costs to buy down your rate, things like that. I know D.R. Horton did this prior to the pandemic. They were offering like a lower interest rate, and they were putting some money toward buying down that rate. So that also may happen. I haven't seen it that much, but that may happen. You want to be prepared for those things. And you want to make sure you understand exactly what you're doing. If you're in this house for a long, and I think you should be, I think if you're buying a house now, you need to be buying a house that you're going to live in for the next 7 to 10 years. If you're not doing that, you may be able to do an adjustable rate mortgage, but you need to have your exit strategy ready. Like, how am I getting out of this house? Because even if you rent it out, or even if you say I'm going to refinance, you would only refinance. What if their rates are higher when it's time to refinance? Can you afford that new payment? So all of those things you want to think about before you just say, oh, I get a 3% rate, if that is going to adjust in the next 5 to 7 years. I hope this was helpful. I know the market is going everywhere and it's still very difficult. I did a poll on my channel, and I think most people said that if rates got to 6%, they were out of the market. And so if you imagine, I think we're up to like 70% in the poll. 70% of the people said they wouldn't do over 6%. And I know it's not a scientific poll, but imagine if that amount of people left the market at 6%. What would happen to the housing market? Even with low inventory, there'll be less competition. So prices would have to come down some. There would have to be some more negotiation, unless all of these investors are in the market too and they start buying up everything. But just be very mindful, educate yourself as much as possible. You don't want to be in this market without information. Thank you so much for watching my channel, subscribing to my channel. If you have any questions, please put it in the comments. Please join my First Time Buyers Facebook group. It's absolutely free, and there's a lot of good information in there as well. And download my guide, where to start with home ownership. Thank you so much for watching, and like and subscribe.